Hey guys, this is Mr. Breen, and in this video I'm going to talk about why government debt is so bad. And that might seem like a strange question to ask. Why is government debt that bad? It seems like debt just is bad, but really if you think about it, most of you are going to go into debt. Some of you pretty soon, most of you eventually, to buy a house, to buy a car, to buy a college education. Could debt be that bad? Consider the following scenario with my awesomely drawn stick figures and this comic strip. So, the first person is like, hey, I need $160,000 for college. And the second person goes, yeah, sure, here's $160,000. And, 10 years later, when that $160,000 plus interest is due, the other guy says, oh, sorry, too bad. And, can the other guy really, revoke his college education? Well, no, those skills and knowledge, that's there. You can't sort of take that out of his brain. So it seems like the person holding the money is really in the advantageous position. That's the borrower. But there are still some problems. First of all, we're going to have to pay interest on that debt. And in 2013, the federal government of the United States spent around $221 billion on interest payments on the debt. That's, I think, the fifth biggest individual budget item behind things like Social Security, Defense, Medicare, and Medicaid, which is a lot of money just to pay for interest. All right, so the second reason why debt could be a problem is a little more complicated, so let me explain. So the world has a certain amount of output every year. Let's call that the world GDP. So this is the goods and services that the entire world makes, all the countries added together in 1 year. And of that, a certain amount will be, you divide this pie up, a certain amount will be consumed. A certain amount of it will be consumption. Okay. The rest of it, the part that's not consumed immediately, things like food or other kinds like services, medical services, things like that, another part of it is going to be saved. Okay, and that amount is going to go into the financial system and be invested elsewhere. All right, so let's have another pie. Let's see this pie over here, world savings. And of this pie, some of it will go to fund government debt. Some of it will purchase government bonds. Okay, so that's going to be government debt, government bonds. Okay, so they're going to borrow money that way, and the rest of it, I'll color this in red, but I'm going to get rid of this in a second. The rest of it is going to be, well, other investments, other borrowing. Well, what is that other investment? People borrow money to buy houses. They borrow money to buy cars, to go to college. Businesses borrow money to build factories and expand their business in other ways, maybe just an office building, but they're expanding their businesses. This helps get us, more jobs. So all the savings is going to go to something like that. Okay, well, let's say that the amount borrowed by government increases. And because this program is not letting me erase anything right now, apparently, I'll just color over it. But let's say that the government starts to borrow this much. So government borrowing goes up. But that means other investment has to go down. Well, what if government borrows even more? That means other investment goes down again. In fact, if government debt just keeps on growing as a share of all savings, then private investment sort of dries up. This process is called the crowding out effect. This means that the more government borrows, savings is a finite amount, and there's no borrowing without saving. And if the government borrows more, then there's less for everybody else to borrow. That could cause interest rates for mortgages and auto loans and college loans and student loans to go up, thus discouraging people from buying those things. It could also crowd out business investment. None of those are things we want. That could really hurt the country's economy. So really, there are two big problems with debt. One is that you have to pay interest on it. That is, you have to service it. And the other is that the more government borrows, the less there is for everybody else to borrow. That's the crowding out effect.